So, Mato, we're here in Corvallis, and you're actually from Corvallis, and you've been encountering some strange activity for, I guess, a number of years with Occupy here. And can you tell me what your finding is at this point?
Yes, exclusionary tactics used by predominantly white people in the movement, and they're not in touch with the fact that daily exposure to institutionalized racism has rubbed off on them. And when people of color use any kind of tone when confronting this white supremacy, they're labeled as angry, immediately kicked out of groups, and they're no longer supported.
Describe Corvallis, if you will. Largely white community, partly agricultural community, but yet, as we talked about a few minutes ago, there have always been war protesters here. It has this left feeling, but it isn't exactly stacking up that way from the experience you're having.
It feels segregated, as well as a lot of the meetings and classes on environmentalism and also social justice movements in the Northwest all feel literally segregated.
So you've actually brought people of color to Occupy, hoping to draft them in and, have them as part of the group, and they end up not becoming members. Can you explain that?
Yeah, people should be recruiting POCs and make a conscious effort to recruit people of color because of their lack of representation within the white-dominated movements I just spoke of. And every time I've mentioned that, those attempts have fallen on deaf ears. Somebody might nod and say, yeah, but it's not being done. It's exclusionary.
And when you bring it up, it's almost like a reflexive denial.
Yes, there's a reflexive denial, an unwillingness to look in the mirror and deal with their own racism and internal conflicts dealing with racism in America.
Now, for those who aren't familiar with you, you're a Native American activist, you're a wolf activist. Can you just, I know there's so much to it, but can you just kind of give a snapshot of what you've been doing in your life for the last number of years?
Yeah, I've been working on indigenous solidarity, getting people of other races, which I still strongly believe in, to work with and support the original people of this land in their environmental and social justice struggles.
And you've spent time at everywhere, like Wounded Knee and all these different places as an activist. I know you've experienced endless frustration with the pictures you're greeted with when you go to these places. But here in Corvallis, it does seem like a better picture should be at hand. Can you kind of describe what might make it different? Obviously, big change is needed. What would you like to see happen with this Occupy movement?
Occupy is really done, but I see remnants of gatekeepers in the community that are still barring access. These people really don't have a connection to the community that they're claiming, and they're taking up a leadership or what appears to be a leadership role. Often they're barely active in the community, and they're barring access to people that are oftentimes have an international following.
Right, such as yourself. Now, recently you were contacted by a person who claimed to want to build that bridge of solidarity, but and they told you they were Native, and as it turned out, you found out they weren't. But this led to information about the FBI being put up. This is the kind of reaction you're getting for the attempted...
Right.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, when people of color call out environmentalists or others on this behavior with any kind of tone or anger to them, they're pushed away, and now what I'm seeing is rather than to look in the mirror, They would rather call law enforcement, rather threaten to call law enforcement. For what?
Yeah, it sure doesn't sound like they have any grounds for anything at all. However, federal law does, that's where civil rights lie, and I would think that they would find a commitment to go that direction. So basically, and the other part of this is that this is a university town, and Monsanto and I believe Dow also are big sponsors of the programs here. Do you think that sort of sets the stage partly in Corvallis for the acceptance of things that people shouldn't accept?
It does, too. They should also acknowledge their cultural past. Again, looking in the mirror, the largest park here is named after a slave owner. There's a swastika on downtown 5th Street across from the liquor store. These things have to be challenged, Here is a country that's, outcrying about the Confederate flag, and they've got swastikas on their own buildings.